Good morning, everyone. Thank you for all assembling today. I think this is very important. I'm State Senator Fran Pavley. I chair the Natural Resources and Water Committee. This is my 14th year in the legislature, and Porter Ranch is in my state Senate district, and that's why we're gathered here this morning. Also with me are members of the state Senate, President of Porter Ranch, member of the Save Porter Ranch and Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. They will be joining us today. Why are we here? Well, one of the reasons we're here is that after this leak is stopped and the cameras go away because you'll go on to other stories, that the state Senate will be introducing legislation that will make sure and assist the homeowners that this kind of tragedy won't happen again. We're here on behalf of the people who live and work in Porter Ranch, ensuring that they can return to their homes or their businesses and have a safe place to live. This is a challenge, it is a tragedy, and I know we can do better. So the state Senate has a valuable role to play, not just for today's press conference, but in the future. By introducing legislation, we will be focused on this in the months ahead and through the rest of this year. So let me share with you a little bit of background information before I introduce our pro tem. One of our goals is just two simple words: never again. How can we make sure that this kind of tragedy doesn't happen again? Really critically important. I'm a native Angelino growing up in the San Fernando Valley. I watched Porter Ranch be built. This oil and gas field predates any of the homes up here. I'm concerned that land use planning perhaps wasn't done in a compatible way to these homes and businesses. Oil and gas field, as I said, predates the homes. Entitlements were granted in 1979. 30,000 people now live here. There are additional applications for annexation into the city of LA to have more development occur. I've driven past Porter Ranch Neighborhood School, where the kids now are relocated down to Noble Middle School down on Tampa Avenue. Very disruptive to the lifestyle. So we have to look at land use planning as well as a state. But let me go through a few of the things that I will be focusing on. My original goal in being involved in trying to assist the homeowners over the last several months, my staff and I have been attending multiple meetings, neighborhood hearings. I had a staff member here at Granada Hills High just last Saturday. I've had meetings in my office, but I felt my role was to facilitate communication with the administration. I want to give a shout out to Wade Crowfoot in the Office of Emergency Services, who along with him and the other 6 state agencies, we have been able to better communicate with the homeowners. I want to make sure that they know what the state agencies are doing and that together we hold them accountable for reforms that we're going to need to be made during the regulatory reviews. And so we have been having OES conduct a daily update of their website, which you can access. It reviews what all the different agencies are doing, from the Air Resources Board to the CEC to PUC and a variety of others. They're updated daily. We've had meetings with members of DOGGR, that's our oil and gas division that provides oversight. DOGGR has had a person on site, top engineer in the fields for the last 3 months. We want to make sure that they continue to do their job and be here. That's part of our role here today. So there has been ongoing efforts behind the scenes to facilitate communications, make this legislative package that we're announcing today consistent and complementary to the governor's executive order. But as executive orders go away and maybe the state of emergency is no longer in effect, we want to make sure that our agencies provide new, updated regulations that better fit the challenges that the residents of Porter Ranch have faced. So with that, let me briefly introduce the legislative package. And unlike Denzel Washington last night, I did bring my glasses. For those of you who watch the Golden Globes, never mind. So we have learned a variety of things through this fact-finding missions the last few weeks. Today, we'll be proposing an urgency legislation to impose a moratorium on new gas injections and restrictions on vintage wells into the Aliso Canyon storage facility until state agencies, by that I mean Dogger, the CPUC, and the CEC, and outside independent experts determine the site can be safely operated, and especially those older 1950s wells, make sure they do not pose a risk to public health and safety. We know the well that is leaking dates around 1953, and that there are several dozen other wells that are in that era. The structural integrity of the well casing is of concern. They need to be checked. State agencies and outside experts will also consider how to minimize or eliminate use of the facility while still maintaining energy reliability in the region. That's our challenge. Did you know 21 million Southern Californians rely on this energy field in order to have energy security, providing heat and cooking abilities in their homes. Also in this legislative package, not in the urgency part and others, are accountability. We are going to codify the role of the Office of Emergency Services as a lead agency, as a single point of accountability. We have seen how that works. In fact, today we have another phone message with Wade Crowfoot and myself and leaders in Porter Ranch to make sure that we're staying on target and addressing the concerns of the neighborhood. Safety valves. A lot has been said on safety valves. The well that ruptured was not equipped with an automatic subsurface safety valve. Current regulations, unfortunately, require a distance of 300 feet. That's outdated. When you put schools and homes next to active oil and gas fields, you need a larger distance, a bigger distance. I don't have the magic number, but we know that these homes here are about a mile away from the well that is leaking. Obviously, that's not far enough. Inspections and monitoring. Many wells are decades old. The Senate will propose that legislation to require all these facilities be inspected within the next 12 months and at least annually thereafter. We also propose that the state and local agencies employ high-tech imaging process developed by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory to detect plumes of methane. The governor and the legislature confirms and asserts that Southern California Gas Company should be paying for all the damages, not the ratepayers, but by the utility profits. Health impacts. The number one concern I hear from local residents are not just short-term impacts that we're all aware of, nausea, nosebleed, etc., but what are the long-term impacts? What other people have been exposed to 3, 4, or 5 months of methane and mercaptan? How does that play out over time, not just during the few months that there is a leak, but months from now or years from now? So we are going to be asking that not only OEHA, that's the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, initiate an independent scientific medical review of both short and long-term impacts, but after the leak is over, we want ongoing studies and an independent review by organizations such as perhaps UCLA, the medical school there, or Kaiser, some independent medical review. Smarter land use, I mentioned that before. Senator Allen's going to talk about a similar situation down in his district. What is the long-term planning on a state that's growing? We have 39 million people, projected 50 million people just a decade from now. How can we have a secure energy supply that's local and also allow building? That's important. So methane emission mitigation is the last part. The Air Resources Board will be working with Southern California Edison and the legislature to mitigate the methane emissions that have plagued the state. So with that, let me introduce Senate Pro Tem De Leon. I really appreciate his leadership here. He was a hero of mine in addressing not the same problem, but a similar problem in his district regarding Exide and their toxic fumes in his neighborhood. Senator De Leon.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Senator Fran Pavley. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you, unfortunately, under very difficult circumstances. I want to thank Senator Fran Pavley very much for her very strong leadership and for inviting me here today with all the residents here in Porter Ranch to deal head-on with this very difficult situation here in Los Angeles. As Senator Fran Pavley noted, the urgency of this situation cannot be overstated. Let me underscore and emphasize, it simply cannot be overstated. There is no question that this is a significant setback with regards to the harmful emissions into our air as well as into our atmosphere, not just here locally, but throughout the state of California. Not only has the ongoing leakage of methane pollution into the air has disrupted the lives of residents here in Porter Ranch, it also threatens to undermine our efforts at a statewide level, especially coming back from Paris, where we agreed internationally on carbon offsets as well as methane standards for the world. Obviously, this does not help as we try to move forward in meeting these targets globally. That said, we are committed to solving this challenge, and the community can be rest assured that we will take the appropriate measures to resolve this situation. I know that Senator Pavley, as she has articulated so well, she has been working along with her staff very closely with the community members, the residents here, the leaders of the neighborhood councils of Porter Ranch to deal with this issue head on. The Senate plans to stand united to work in a very comprehensive manner to resolve this situation as quickly as possible, as well as comprehensively. Now, we are working very hard, as Senator Pavley just articulated, to put proper laws and regulations in place to prevent similar disasters from occurring and to ensure that we are prepared to do more effectively by managing any future leaks if and when they do actually occur. While the leaks of this magnitude are extremely rare, we also need to ensure that the industry as a whole is held to the highest health and safety standards possible. I do want to commend Governor Jerry Brown. I spoke with him on Friday over the phone, and I want to thank him for his leadership because in initiating, I should say, the state of emergency so that we can marshal the necessary resources to respond to this crisis. But let me be clear. We also have a very aging infrastructure across the state and a patchwork system of regulations that has contributed to the scope of the current challenge and has contributed much to the slow response and making it much more difficult. The reality is that at the state level, we have to work in concert with the agencies at the executive branch, that being DOGGR, that Senator Pavley just articulated, as well as the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, as well as CARB, the California Air Resources Board, as well as CEC, the California Energy Commission. They all have to work very closely in unity, in concert, so we can do everything within our power to make sure disasters of the type here in Porter Ranch do not occur throughout the state of California. A parallel that perhaps you can visualize, which is very simple and easy for those who live in the city of Los Angeles. When the Los Angeles Department of Waterworks, LADWP, has those spectacular water pipe busts that we see flooding areas throughout the city, that is equivalent to what is happening here in Porter Ranch and could possibly happen elsewhere. The reality is you have oil wells and natural gas wells that are aging in infrastructure. And we have these holes or these leaks. That is a parallel example. The only difference is with LADWP, it is water that floods. In this case, we have very potent methane gases, fluorinated carbon gases that are being leaked throughout the air and the atmosphere, which poses risk to the community residents throughout this area and potentially throughout the state where we have aging infrastructure. I work with my colleagues in both the Senate as well as the Assembly, the executive branch, Governor Jerry Brown, as well as the various agencies and the members of this incredible community that have been going through a tremendous amount here. Also working with my Republican colleagues, because this is not a partisan issue, it's not an ideological issue. It's an issue to do everything within our means to make sure that our residents here in Porter Ranch are safe. I had an opportunity to speak with the CEO of the gas company this morning, Mr. Dennis Ariola. It was a conversation that was constructive. It was a conversation that was very clear that our goals are to stop the leaks immediately. Number two, to make sure that the residents of Porter Ranch can return home safely. And three, to make sure that there are no negative health impacts, short, mid, or long term. I'm looking forward to working with Senator Fran Pavley. I want to thank you very much for the invitation to be here. Your leadership is fantastic on this issue, you as well as your staff who worked very hard on this issue. I know that you will be the lead for us in the Senate as we delve into the dynamics, but try to bring resolve and remedy to the residents here in Porter Ranch. And again, to underscore, to make sure that this does not happen again throughout the state of California. With that, I want to bring up to the podium a great senator not too far from here, the other side of the hill, that is Senator Ben Allen. Ben.
Well, thank you for coming out today on this windy day to talk about this very important package that the state Senate is putting forward to help to prevent future disasters and also to make sure that we're better coordinated as a state government when it comes to responding. It turns out that there were about 8 different state agencies that had responsibility over various aspects of the work associated with this leak and the response to this leak. And one of the bills that we're proposing today will help to make the process much more streamlined, much more consolidated, and much more efficient. I come here because I'm very, very concerned. I'm concerned about the folks in this community. I'm concerned about the impact on the Los Angeles Unified School District. I'm concerned about the impact on Los Angeles City. I'm also concerned because there's a subterranean gas storage facility in my own community right near residents that is of a similar age. And so it turns out, it turns out that there are similar facilities in other parts of the state, and we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to figure out how it is that this happened, and then put in place the proper procedures to get our infrastructure improved, and then have a better coordinated response from government. So that's why I'm proud to stand with Senator Pavley, who has been just working so hard on this, has been so devoted and so committed to getting to the bottom of this issue and providing a thoughtful, careful, and well thought through state response. Her extraordinary staff, Henry Stern and others who've been working so hard to make this situation right. So I want to also mention a bill that I have that I'm actually going up to present this week in the legislature that has to do with the question of renewable gas. We've got to figure out a way to use more renewable gas, to stop relying so much on original source natural gas. This has been a disaster not just for this community, it's been a major emissions disaster. We now, at its peak, this was emitting the same amount of greenhouse gas emissions as 7 million automobiles, same as 6 coal-fired power plants. So we have basically ruined all the hard work that's been going on throughout the state to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We're pretty much shot in the foot by this terrible leak. And so as someone who's been working hard with the Pro Tem, and the Pro Tem has been taking such an extraordinary leadership role in putting California at the front of the global conversation with regards to climate change, it's such a shame that this thing has happened. So we're here to stand up and try to come up with some good solutions. I know that the Spanish language press is here, so let me just say a couple things in español. Que los impactos de la contaminación de esta fuga de gas metano han sido devastadores. Y en fin de cuentas, estamos acá para prevenir desastres así en el futuro. En fin de cuentas, California ha sido muy agresivo y ha tenido mucho éxito en sus esfuerzos para combatir el cambio climático y ha hecho una prioridad para reducir los impactos de los contaminantes. Pero hemos visto que esta fuga es ahora la mayor fuente de contaminación de clima en todo el estado, lo que equivale a las emisiones diarias de 7 millones de vehículos. Entonces, estamos acá para prevenir un escape de gas así en el futuro y también para coordinar los esfuerzos del gobierno estatal en una manera mejor. So I'm proud to be here with my Senate colleagues. I'm proud to see a bipartisan effort. I'm also happy to stand with the folks from this community who have suffered so much from this ridiculous situation. We've got to make sure that we get to the bottom of this fast. We've got to make sure that we don't ever let this happen again. And we've also got to make sure we're protecting other communities around the state that have similar gas wells that are near homes. Thank you so much.
What's your name and title?
My name is Ben Allen, and I'm a state senator representing the west side and the coastal South Bay.
Gracias, senador Benjamincito, Allen, por tus palabras muy elegantes y poderosas. Así que voy a presentar, I'm going to present the next speaker, the last senator who will be sharing a few words here today. He's the former leader of the Republicans in the Senate. He's a great senator, and it's my honor to work in concert with him on a whole variety of issues that helps improve the human condition for all Californians. That is Senator Bob Hoff, Senator Roberto Hoff.
Gracias, Mr. Leader. As we stand here today, we're reminded that public safety is government's first priority, and so we're thankful that none of the workers, none of the residents have lost their lives with this disaster. Having said that, we're very concerned. The reported headaches, the nausea, the nosebleeds, and other maladies that have been reported by nearby residents, and the disruption of daily life, and of course, the nagging question of most residents, are there any long-term risks to my family? Can I move back into my house? And when will something like this happen again? This legislative package is being put forward to address these concerns and more. Natural gas has become crucial to our energy supply and our economy. It heats our homes, it cooks our food, it powers our transit buses. Natural gas is the cleaner fossil fuel alternative, replacing coal, bunker oil, and diesel in many of our electrical generation facilities. Gas turbine generators can power on and off quickly and have therefore become an integral part of our renewable energy grid. When sunlight and wind energy fluctuate as they do daily, sometimes hourly, gas-powered turbines power on and off to fill the gaps. Storage of methane in facilities as this is essential to provide a steady supply of cheaper, reliable energy. When you turn on your stove to cook a meal, you have every expectation that the flame's going to ignite because there's gas. When you flip on the light switch, you have every expectation that a generation facility somewhere is going to power that bulb. But as we use natural gas in our daily lives, it is also our expectation it will not be at risk of our health. With our action today and in the months to come, it is our intent in the legislature to address these concerns, to find solutions so that we build our more sustainable energy grid. We do so in the safest way possible. Thank you.
Yes, we have two more speakers representing the Porter Ranch community. First up is Paula Crasham. She's the president of the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, and she has been amazing, keeping all of us informed and engaged, and not a week goes by or a day goes by without an email or a phone call. Please welcome Paula.
Hey, just thank you guys for being here, and thanks Senator Pavley. She's been very, very responsive to the concerns in the community. As you can see, this is an environmental incident and a community impact, but it's gorgeous. I mean, you're looking right up there. So one of the reasons I think that the response has been a little slow and maybe lackluster from the beginning was because there wasn't a big plume in the air that everyone could see. But Senator Pavley and her office has been incredible at hearing the concerns of the community. We are very concerned that there was not a cohesive response coming out of all of these agencies, and thankfully that has been addressed. And when this state of emergency goes away, and we're all hopeful it will have to go away soon because this leak will be fixed, and our children who attend school tomorrow for the first time outside of their community will be able to come back. This legislation will give teeth and actual stickiness to all of these things that need to happen in this community and in communities throughout that are right next door to these facilities. Not having testing and not knowing when a leak happens is something that can't happen in the future. These wells that are old and that get inspected periodically need to be inspected more often. There needs to be a system in place where the community can feel safe, that they know instantly when a leak happens, that someone knows about it, not just when someone happens to walk past it on a random test. And these are the things that they've been working absolutely diligently and vigilantly about ever since this started. And we're very, very grateful for their role in all of this. Thank you.
I have one cute Paula story. So she contacts my office and said, you know, Governor Brown's going down to the funeral down in San Bernardino. Why doesn't he come on by Porter Ranch and meet with us? And then we didn't think he ever would. He shows up, 1 hour notice, and they put together an amazing meeting. And I think that was instrumental of not only both of your work, but the idea behind the state of emergency came out of your efforts. So they stay on top of us, and you need that. You need accountability in elected officials, and I appreciate it. So last speaker is Alex Kim. Now, Alex wears a dual role. He's on the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, and he's with Save Porter Ranch, two important organizations to the fabric of this community. Alex?
안녕하십니까. 제 이름은 알렉스 킴입니다. That was a greeting in Korean. Okay. My name is Alex Kim, and Porter Ranch has been my home for past 30 years. And I hope it will be for the rest of my life. I never imagined myself as an environmental activist or an activist of any kind. For many years, I only cared for my business and my family. But the gas leak has made me feel a need to be more involved. I'm a very proud volunteer of Save Porter Ranch and Food and Water Watch, which have been our strongest environmental advocate both now and long before the gas leak, when they opposed oil drilling expansion in our area. I'm also a member of Porter Ranch Neighbor Council. Porter Ranch is full of families like mine. Almost 40% are first-generation immigrants, speak English as a second language. I urge our leaders not to forget the need to provide information and services that will be accessible to all. Now, I'd like to read a statement from Save Porter Ranch. Save Porter Ranch looks forward to working with Senator Pavley and the Senate leadership to enact the moratorium on all operations in Aliso Canyon oil field and SoCalGas Aliso Canyon underground storage facility. This disaster requires extreme, speedy measures, as thousands of families are sickened and displaced from their homes. The climate impacts soar out of control. Due to the lack of stringent laws and lack of oversight, the state of California has enabled SoCalGas to fail to maintain the Aliso Canyon gas storage facility, allowing it to deteriorate beyond repair. So it must be shut down forever. We hope all this incident provide the momentum necessary to enact laws and regulations that this time protect California. We hope our legislators will muster the courage to stand up to the big oil and gas corporation to prevent this type of massive failure from happening again. And we all need to have a courage to challenge natural gas as a clean transition fuel, because it is not. look forward to the future conversation with the California legislature about the swift transition to 100% clean energy for Los Angeles and California. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Right to Q&A.
This is the time for a few questions and answers, and then some of us have an airplane we need to catch her. We're in trouble with the pro tem. Yeah. All right. Questions, and Kevin, can you assist with this? Okay, the question was, what do you say to the people to shut it down? First priority is to stop the leak, getting people into their homes. Then we will be asking the appropriate agencies to look at all options. If this can't be conducted safely in the future, we have to consider shutting it down. But how do we put natural gas as I think it's a transitional fuel as we get to a clean energy future? How do we make sure that there's adequate supply to the 21 million people who rely on it? It probably can be done. Can it be done overnight? No. But can we, in the meantime, put in the safeguards necessary so that the protocols are in place if there, God forbid, ever another emergency, that there's regular inspections, that safety valves are in place, that we have mesh screens in place, and the list goes on and on? Absolutely, we need to do all that. And should we be putting additional people and development adjacent to similar facilities, live oil and gas fields, not just in Porter Ranch, but in other places around the state? We need to do better on our state's land use planning as well. So all items are on the table as far as where we go from here, but it's going to require some patience and thoughtful procedures. The legislature this year is committed to getting our different state agencies not only engaged, but persistent in assuring maximum extent possible to protect the public health and safety right here for Porter Ranch.
Yeah, Joel, I think in question, speaking with the CEO, Dennis Arriola, early this morning, no doubt about it, the goal here specifically is to shut down this well permanently, period. So there's no interpretation for that. If your question is with regards to the larger scaled up area with regards to the other wells, precisely that's why the need for this press conference, so the agencies statutorily, not just because they have to do it, but legally have to work in concert with each other to do an assessment. In fact, if they have to shut down other wells, are they in danger of leaking as well too? So that's why working with Doggart, PUC, Public Utilities Commission, CEC, the California Energy Commission, as well as the PUC and CARB is going to be very, very essential working with the executive branch. No, they're being drafted as we speak right now, so we know conceptually what they're going to look like more or less. The author will be Senator Fran Pavley and perhaps other colleagues as well too. So probably within, I would say within a week, you'll be able to draw down and know the content of the measures themselves.
And the urgency legislation probably sooner than later.
Urgency legislation, be mindful, urgency legislation requires 2/3 on both sides of the chambers, both the Senate as well as the Assembly. Therefore, what that means specifically is 2/3 means bipartisan support. That means it does require Republicans to vote for these measures for the urgency.
Any idea when you might be able to bring that to both the Senate and the Assembly, this urgency legislation?
We'd like to do that as soon as possible. Urgency goes into effect immediately. Simple majority bills are codified into law the following year. Therefore, if a measure passes in 2016, it goes into effect January 1st, 2017. However, urgency bills that require 2/3, therefore Republican support in the bipartisan fashion, go into effect immediately.
Senator Domingue, can you talk a little bit about, I know that there's talk of in the legislation about the inspection and more regular. Are you all saying at this point that the inspections weren't properly done or adequately done at this facility? Is there a concern?
I don't know enough to give you an accurate answer, so I don't want to give you I don't want to give statements that are full of hyperbole and over dramatization. I want to be very clear about that. We don't know. I don't know. I don't know if Senator Fran Pavley, others do know. We do know that we have aging infrastructure. We do know that we have to go beyond just Porter Ranch to make sure that the executive agencies in question here today are doing their job and doing it correctly. Let me just give it a little quick civics lessons here, because I know everyone knows this, but just want to do it very quick. We have three branches of government, right? We have the executive, we have the legislative, and we have the judicial. We do not represent these state agencies. That comes under the executive branch, under the governor, Jerry Brown. We are the representatives of the people. They are our constituents throughout the state. Therefore, we are their advocates, and we need to make sure that agencies under the executive branch are in fact doing their job. And if they're not doing their job, we must implore them through through legislation to make it legal, to codify into law, that they're working in concert with each other, with the end goal being that all communities, irrespective of who you are, where you come from. I love Mr. Kim's comments that many folks up here, a lot of folks don't know, are immigrants, particularly from South Korea. We want to make sure that all families are safe. And again, with Senator Bob Huff here, it demonstrates that this is not a partisan or ideological issue or a geographical issue. The end goal is to make sure all of our families are safe, irrespective of where you live. You want to say anything?
Just regarding the regulations, of course, Monday morning quarterbacking is easy to do. We needed to have more inspections, more proactive inspections. We need to have a plan as infrastructure ages out, some kind of policy and timeline for replacement. Always err on the side of caution, not hoping with your fingers crossed that there won't be a problem. But the other thing that's different, when a lot of these fields were built, there weren't homes and schools adjacent to it. You almost need two standards. For energy facilities, they're sort of out in the middle of wide open spaces, and those that are so close to homes and schools. So regarding the safety valve issue, 300 feet is not enough. That's an old standard. But when it's homes and schools, it should be a far greater distance. I don't have that magic number, but definitely over a mile. So we can do better, and we want to make sure that the respective agencies do better too.
Let me add one more thing here too. And one thing that I appreciate very much from Senator Fran Pavley, as if you notice, she's not a woman who is, or senator who's prone to hyperbole, prone to over dramatizations, prone to pointing fingers at folks. She is a very serious senator, hence the body of her work, which is globally known. She's an individual who's very methodical. She's very politically mature. She's not going to be in the scrum, if you will, trying to score political points and pointing fingers at folks. She's an individual who wants to get the work done and make sure that, in fact, it's verifiable and it's quantifiable. These wells have been here since Porter Ranch was, in fact, even created back in the day. So therefore, I think we have to look at the local level too and find out exactly how the permitting process is conducted, and should have Porter Ranch been created back in the day, because the wells didn't appear after the residences were created. The wells were here long before the residents were created here, and those are permitting issues here at the local level here in the city of Los Angeles. So we have to look and dig in very deep and ask a lot of very tough questions. All right, that's it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good call on that. That's a good note.